Welcome back, my friends, to your channel. Today we are going to talk about virtualization, and we are going to see how to make the real virtualization environment and how to create virtual machines. But first, before we start, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. First of all, I would like to introduce to you what is server virtualization and why do we use virtualization environment. The specifications of physical servers nowadays may reach high capabilities. For example, one of the servers may hold up to more than 1 terabyte of memory, in addition to a higher CPU performance. So instead of just using the physical server for a simple application or maybe one database that may not use that much of resources, maybe it will use a quarter of these resources. For example, we will go to the virtual environment. In the virtual environment, we will take advantage of these resources, the memory, the CPU, and of course the network, in order to install several virtual machines that each of them will hold a certain application or a certain database and whatever is needed. We will store these virtual machines inside a shared storage among the physical servers. The virtual machine will sit, the virtual machine data will sit in the shared storage, while the resources, which are again the RAM, the CPU, and the network, will be taken from the physical servers themselves. As we will see in the real example and how to configure the hypervisor environment, we will understand more about the virtual environment. One important thing to know is that the physical server that will hold the virtual machine and the management operating system, it's called the host. It will host the virtual machines inside it, and this is very important terminology that we will hear during our configuration. In order to add the Hyper-V inside Windows Server, we will go to Server Manager. After it opens, it will shows us all the services and stuff, and then we will go to Add Roles and Features. We'll press Next. It will go for the server itself. It will give us the name of the server. We'll go to Next, and then we will find Hyper-V. Once we choose Hyper-V, it will state that there are certain features to be installed. We'll ask it to be installed to add the features, and then we'll go to Next, and then there's no other features to add. We'll go to Next. Then it will ask us to specify the virtual switch and some settings. We will keep them as default, and then we will install it. Once it's installed, we may open the Hyper-V Manager, and we will start to do our configuration. First thing is first, we will start with the Virtual Switch Manager in order to manage our network environment for the virtual machines, how the virtual machines will be connected with each others, how they will be connected with the host, and how they will be connected with their network environment. We will see and talk about each type of network switches by details. As you may see in the image, there are three types of switches: private, internal, and external, going from bottom to top. The private switch is used to connect the virtual machine with its host only. Now, once we press the button to add a new switch, we will have the choice to choose between private or internal or external. So the private switch, as we said, it connects the virtual machine with its host only, while the internal switch is used to connect the virtual machines among themselves with the host, but not with the outside environment. The external switch is the one that's used to connect the virtual machines among each others and with the host and with the external environment. I will explain more. Each network switch has what's called uplink ports. The usage of these uplink ports is to connect the two different switches or maybe more together. For example, we may see we have a group of workstations that are separated. We have group A and group B. The workstations in group B will not be able to communicate with the workstations in group A because the switches are separated from each others. Now, if we connect both switches together with the uplink ports, then the workstations in group B will be able to send packets and receive packets from workstations in group A. Now back to our Hyper-V environment. This is similar to what we just saw. The internal switch is the switch that connects the virtual machines among each others with the host. It's similar to having a certain group like group A or group B. There's no connection from the uplink port to the network environment, and thus the virtual machines will not be able to communicate with their network environment. While when we go to the external network switch, there we will specify a physical port in the host to be used as the uplink port to connect the switch that we are creating with the network environment, allowing the virtual machines connected to this switch to be able to communicate and send packets and receive packets from their network environment. One last thing to understand about the network switches, that if you may see in the external network switch, that you may allow or disallow the management host to use this external switch in order to communicate with the VMs or not. The VMs that are connected to this external switch will be able to communicate with each others and use the physical port to communicate with the network environment. But as for the host, you may allow it to be part of this communication, or you may not allow it to be part of this communication, meaning that the physical port on the host will be used only for the virtual machines themselves, and the host will not see this physical port to communicate through it. Once we create the virtual network switches required for our network environment, then we may go and start to create the virtual machines. We will go to make a new virtual machine, and then we will start to go with the next, and then we will specify the name of the virtual machine and the place to store this virtual machine. And then we after specifying the name and the place, we will go to next, and then we will choose between generation 1 and generation 2, which we'll explain later in this video. After we choose which generation to set the virtual machine, we'll go to next, and then we will specify the number of RAM, maybe 4 gig, 1 gig, 2 gig, etc. And then we will specify on which network switch to connect this virtual machine. After that, it will ask us to specify the hard disk for this virtual machine where we will install the operating system. We may specify the space of the virtual machine. The maximum is 64 terabyte, and then after we choose the the size of the hard disk. We'll go to next, and then we may install the operating system by using an ISO image from our server that we will have, for example Windows 10, Windows 11, or maybe Windows Server. It depends on the choice that we will install the virtual machine, or even maybe Linux machine. It depends on your choice. And then we will press next. It will give us a summary of our choices, and then we will finish creating the VM. Now that we know how to create the VM, we will stop here and we will continue in the next video to show you more about the virtual environment, and to differentiate between generation 1 and generation 2. And also I'll show you how to install the Hyper-V on your Windows 10 in order to test the environment and see all the features of the virtual environment. See you in the next video, my friends. Please don't hesitate to make your comments, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.